Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the FPL Scope and the FPL Eye Test, where we usually take a look back at this past weekend's Premier League matches and look at it from an FPL perspective. But this time around, we've had 3 game weeks in 1 week, so I'm going to summarize all 20 teams basically in the Premier League and what they've been doing this past week and these past 3 game weeks, game week 13, game week 14, and game week 15. So we have a lot of teams to get through. We're going to go through them in alphabetical order, and then just going to summarize the teams and how they're looking FPL wise and just general outlook over the league for this past week, because a lot of things have happened. One of the teams that have had a lot of things happen to them is Arsenal. They've had a bit of a tumultuous week. They have had one of each, 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. Their first loss in 18 games. Against Aston Villa, which was in game week 15. But before we get to that, they had the match against Chelsea, 1-1 match there. They were kind of disappointing in that match because Chelsea were down 1 man for most of the game, but Arsenal couldn't really do much. But that is Chelsea. They usually show up for these big games. I'm going to talk more about that from the Chelsea perspective when I get to those guys. But Arsenal are struggling a little bit now with injuries and stuff. Slowly getting players back offensively, but even then, Trossard has been out. There's been a couple of issues in general, and defensively, I think they're finally starting to show the effects of Gabriel Magalhaes being out of the team, because he's just such a hugely important player for Arsenal. He was so instrumental not only defensively but also offensively with their attacking set pieces, so he is a big loss for Arsenal. And yes, they have a lot of depth. They are really good in that regard. Hinkepie has been really good as a replacement there, but Gabriel, especially with his goals offensively, has made such a massive difference, so they aren't really able to put as much pressure on the other teams as they usually have been. But anyways, managed to get a 1-1 draw against Chelsea despite going down there, but they had one man more in that game. The week after that, beating Brentford, or not the week after that, the game week after that, they beat Brentford 2-0. Rested a couple of guys, rested Saka, rested Timber. Of course, I captained Saka myself in the FPL for this game week, and I had Timber who came on for 1 point, so sad times for me, but they actually kept a clean sheet against Brentford, who have been looking a bit worse lately, which we'll get to as well. But yeah, a pretty simple win with a weekend side, but it didn't really work out for them either, because they did lose the final game against Aston Villa 2-1. Easily good bit of draw. You can see the expected goals there, 2.16 for Aston Villa and 1.92 for Arsenal, but Aston Villa just were super offensive the second half, or towards the end of the match, and they managed to get the goal right at the end there. First half from Arsenal there was really, really bad, and then second half I felt like it was more of an even game, but Aston Villa are showing to be a force to be reckoned with, and it actually works out well because that is the next team. When it comes to FPL standout options for Arsenal, I have highlighted Declan Rice actually as the standout options because he has been their best midfielder so far this season, but I think Saka is the one that you want to have for the next game week, because Arsenal are facing Wolverhampton, which is a really easy game normally. We just saw that now. I just saw it now actually on the TV before I started recording this. Wolverhampton against Man United, which I'll also get to eventually in this video. But Aston Villa did also face Wolverhampton in game week 13. Only 1 goal, only 0.94 XG. And that's a bit of the issue with Aston Villa. Yes, they are a really good team. They won 9 out of the last 10 matches, but still, in terms of FPL options, they don't really have much. All the goals are coming from very many different places. They don't really keep too many clean sheets either. You can see the expected goals conceded from the last 3 games. 4.62 is not really that good either. Conceded 3 goals against Brighton, but Aston Villa are just an amazing team, put together. So yeah, their best option I would think is Matty Cash. He is a super attacking defender for a really good team, getting goals, sometimes getting clean sheets as well. So he's actually someone that you should consider, but Aston Villa's fixtures aren't really the best either, but yeah, they have just been terrific. So I think Matty Cash is definitely a viable pick for you guys if you want a good FPL pick from Aston Villa, but I think he's pretty much the only one. Watkins did score twice against Brighton. Did look good in that game, has looked a bit better lately, but he's still struggling a bit with minutes. Played only 60-something minutes against Arsenal before he was subbed off as well, so yeah, Rodgers is typically pretty good, but didn't really do much. He got 1 assist against Brighton, actually 2 Watkins, like he did in the past season, but he's also not a super standout pick either. He did score 15 points against Leeds in game week 12, but didn't really follow that up in the next few games where I brought him in FPL, of course. But Aston Villa, 3 wins, really impressive. 5.51 expected goals, expected goals in general. Also really, really good. But yeah, I don't know what to make of Aston Villa in terms of FPL. In terms of as a real team, like they are going to be in the top 4 fight. They're potentially going to be in a title fight as well. It depends. It remains to be seen how good Arsenal are looking now going forward. But I still think this is Arsenal's league to win. I think they have the best depth, and I think the fact that they are able to rotate their team as opposed to teams like Aston Villa and Man City who are chasing behind them, I think that's going to help them out in the long run. But for now, they're struggling a bit with injuries, and the other teams are gaining on them, including Aston Villa, who are really, really good, and you should keep track of those guys, but they just get goals from everywhere, basically. Like Matty Cash scores sometimes, you have Rodgers, you have Malen, you have Buendia scoring goals, scored a winner against Arsenal, Watkins scored a couple goals now. There are just so many sources of goals from Aston Villa, and it's really tough to select like one standout guy from that team in FPL, but I think Matty Cash is the one because he's both attacking wise and defensively. He can get points, and he plays for a really good team, so he's also pretty cheap. Like he's definitely someone to consider from Aston Villa, but yeah, the rest of the assets, not so sure. Maybe Watkins will turn it on again and become a great striker. He's been so good in FPL in the past, but remains to be seen if he gets consistent minutes as well going forward. It might just be like a Christmas schedule type of thing, but we'll see. Next up, we have Bournemouth, who have been really lacking lately. They have sort of been a bit unlucky when it comes to expected goals. You can see they have more, or basically the same expected goals as expected goals conceded, but they haven't really been able to put that into wins. Against Sunderland, they lost 3-2. Really disappointing game from them there. I actually think they were up 2-0 if I remember correctly in that game. So yeah, they have not been that good. Also at home against Everton, typically they have been a good home team. Bournemouth, that's been like one of the major trends this season. At home, they've been really good. And especially defensively, like at home they've been really good, and defensively away they've been really, really bad. So they showed that defensive weakness away in Sunderland. They did concede 3 goals to 1.28 XG though, which is kind of an anomaly, I guess. But then at home to Everton, where you expect them to do well, especially after Everton have been struggling a bit in a couple games lately, they did lose 1-0 in that game. It didn't really create much. So Semenyo has not looked at his best. He's also been struggling. Then again against Chelsea, 1.42 XG. They actually won the XG battle there as well, but didn't manage to get a goal in the end. Petrovic was in goal for them and got a clean sheet. Senesi got a clean sheet and got some DEFCON points as well. He's been good for them. He's a source of DEFCON points all the time, and Bournemouth are still a pretty good defense, especially at home. And it's pretty predictable as well. Like you can play them at home. If you have Senesi, for example, you can play him at home and then bench him away. That's typically a good thing with him. But yeah, he does get DEFCON points, and he is a pretty good asset. When it comes to Semenyo, I think once he plays, Burnley in Game Week 18, he could be someone to buy back. That's currently what I'm looking to do potentially. But he's also someone that has struggled lately, so we'll have to watch him as well for the future. Moving on to Brentford, they have 1 win and 2 losses in the last 3. The 1 win was at home against Burnley, which is a game we expect them to win. Then they lose a game we expect them to lose against Arsenal. And then they lose a game where I didn't really expect them to be as outclassed as they were against Tottenham. So that was kind of surprising. Igor Thiago is also benched and rested against Arsenal, hoping to get a result against Spurs. So, and Damsgaard as well was even benched against Arsenal. So the fact that they lost so heavily to Spurs, who have been dreadful at home this season, is a bit of a worry when it comes to Brentford. But I think Igor Thiago has shown himself to be a really good FPL striker. I think he's going to be a super popular pick now, with everyone getting 5 free transfers from African Cup of Nations. He takes penalties. He's getting so many penalties as well. But there is a source of penalties going away with him, because Dango Ouattara is going to leave for the African Cup of Nations. And he's been getting, 5 penalties, I think, so far for Brentford. So maybe the penalties will dry up a little bit for Igor Thiago as well. But I think in general, he's just a really good pick, penalty taker. He is pretty good in open play as well for Brentford. He's been pretty impressive this season in general, I think, and is the second highest goal scorer. So I think he's still a really, really good option. But when it comes to the rest of the Brentford team, I don't really trust anyone that much. You can see from the expected goals and expected goals conceded, not the best, 3.7 expected goals and 4.9 expected goals conceded. Of course, that's a little bit down to the fact that they played Arsenal, but they also played Burnley. So they should really be, like, you can see the Burnley game, they get 3, like most of their XG was from that game alone. And against Arsenal and Spurs, they didn't really create anything offensively. So yeah, a bit worrying there, but I think Igor Thiago, especially with the easy fixtures that they have now, is going to be a good pick still. But be wary of Dango leaving, which is not next week. He's going to stay for Game Week 16, but Game Week 17 onwards, he's going to leave. So Igor Thiago, for the short term, he's going to be really, really good. For the long term, we'll have to wait and see how Brentford cope without Dango as well. I think the African Cup of Nations is going to make a lot of teams look a lot differently, because they are going to lose some key players, and Brentford is one of them, with Dango, who's been really good this season. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with them going forward. Next up, we have Brighton, who have 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss in typical Brighton fashion. They've actually created a lot of chances in all these games, really. 2 XG against Nottingham Forest, 2.2 against Aston Villa, and 1.87 against West Ham in the final game in Game 15. So yeah, a bit up and down, a bit like not really knowing what to expect with Brighton, but they're still a good team. I would have actually expected more points from these games though, but they did at least beat Nottingham Forest 2-0. They had the lead against Aston Villa as well, and it looked like they were just like, they are here to stay, like they are actually a really good team now, but then Aston Villa turned it back and won that game quite convincingly in the end, with Ollie Watkins, as always, against his favorite opponents, Brighton, scoring 2 goals in that game. But Brighton have looked good offensively. I've been a bit let down by Minte. He was the guy that I brought in on the wildcard now in Game 15, and he was actually subbed off pretty early against West Ham after playing a lot of minutes before that in the other games. But yeah, he's also been a bit on a downward spiral lately. I think Welbeck has been the better attacking player from Brighton, but the main standout player from Brighton has been Maxime de Cuyper, who was such a hyped up preseason pick, because he is basically a super attacking fullback playing for a really good team in Brighton, and lately he's been playing, and he's been also benefiting from the fact that he was subbed off before they conceded against West Ham. He scored goals. He's been creating, I think, 3 big chances or 2 big chances in the last 3 game weeks or something like that. So he is sort of what he was hyped up to be before the season, and he's the one to watch for sure, because he's only 4.3 now. He started at 4.5, has gone down in price because he disappointed at the start of the season, but he is a pretty good player. Like, he's not going to be a DEFCON player, which is like the main thing for defenders nowadays, but he's going to be someone that plays around 60-70 minutes potentially, keeping that clean sheet. He could get more of those games like against West Ham, where he gets the clean sheet and then gets to keep it after he gets subbed off. And he's also offensively minded and gets both goals and assists for Brighton. So I think he's like a really nice option there for Brighton. They have some good defensive picks. Van Hecke has also been pretty good. He did make the mistake for the goal at West Ham scored though, but he did sort of make up for it with the assist for the goal from Georginio Rutter, which wouldn't have been a goal if Georginio Rutter's original attempt at goal hadn't gone in, because he it hit his hand. It wasn't a handball in my opinion. I think there's way too many handballs in football, but according to the rules, if he had scored after that, if the handball, like even incidental handball, ends up in a goal directly, that would have been disallowed. So Ariola did a mistake making a save there, I guess. But yeah, those are the bad rules in not FPL. Those are the bad rules in refereeing or Premier League, basically. But Brighton a bit up and down, but I think it's quite encouraging. The numbers, at least the underlying numbers, 6.07 expected goals. It's just like, who do we get it from? Like, who's the main guys that will get the points and get the goals? Minte has looked the part earlier in the season, but he hasn't really looked the part the last few game weeks. I think the Cuyper is actually, again, one of those best of both worlds type of fullbacks who both gets forward and can get goals, and also could get assists or could get clean sheets, as he has done against Nottingham Forest and Brighton. So yeah, he's just been fantastic the last few game weeks, the Cuyper. But the minutes are a bit of a risk with him. He is getting subbed off sometimes. He doesn't start always. That's the downside with the Cuyper for Brighton. When it comes to Burnley, there's not really too much to talk about with them. They are still just a really bad team. 3 straight losses. Burnley and Wolverhampton are the 2 main teams to target this season. That's been the case here as well. Didn't lose with too much, to be fair to them. They did lose 3-1 against Brentford. The goals with Igor Thiago, like I mentioned previously. Only 1 goal conceded against Crystal Palace, who we'll get to pretty soon, who are looking a bit tired. But they did still lose that game. And then losing 2-1 against Newcastle, scoring that super late penalty to delete the clean sheet for Newcastle. But other than that, they haven't really done much. Like, that's part of the XG that they have as well. Like, they have not created that many chances at all the last few game weeks. So yeah, Brighton don't really have too many players to suggest from that team. I think Dubravka is still like the main option for them. He's a 4.0 goalkeeper that starts. I personally have 2 Burnley players actually, because I have Esteve in defense as well as like a cheap defender who plays at least. It's just going to be a backup on the bench in case I need him. But I think, yeah, there's not that many players from Burnley to take note of, because they are just one of the worst teams in the league. That's more of a team to target if you have players playing against them rather than going with players that play for Burnley. Moving on to Chelsea, they have also been a bit tumultuous lately. They did get that draw against Arsenal after beating Barcelona in the midweek before that in the Champions League. People were hyping them up as title contenders, and then they lost handedly to Leeds and drew against Bournemouth. So yeah, not the best time for Chelsea after Game 13, where they were on such a high after that Arsenal game, where they actually looked pretty good with 10 men. But then they just sort of dropped off after that. They had to rest some players against Leeds, and that definitely cost them. They don't have that squad depth that other teams like Arsenal have. So Reece James is just too important for them to not play, and that's what happened against Leeds. He didn't play, and that sort of cost them, where Leeds kind of deservedly won that game 3-1. Then against Bournemouth, didn't really create much in that game either. Quite concerning that they got less than 1 XG in both those 2 games, or in all 3 games for that matter, against Arsenal as well, but that's more expected against Arsenal with 10 men. Like, you wouldn't expect them to get that many chances. But Chalobah, he did score the goal against Arsenal. He's been good defensively. He's been getting a lot of points in general this season. I think he's like top 5 for defenders this season, so he's someone that like consistently gets points somehow. But yeah, I'm not sure about Chelsea either. Like, if you look at the expected goal numbers there for these games, 2.68 expected goals for them, and then 5.47 expected goals conceded. That is not good numbers in games that are like quite winnable. Apart from Arsenal, which of course was even tougher with 10 men. Leeds away and Bournemouth away. Yes, it is away, but those are 2 fixtures that could get a result from, especially the Leeds fixture, which is the worst fixture, incidentally, these past 3 game weeks. So yeah, Chalobah's good. Palmer's now still injured. Delap got injured in this past game week as well. Mark Guiu could actually be a decent option for that reason, because yeah, with Palmer now struggling more with some more injury issues, and also Delap out for a little while, it seems like Guiu could be like the striker to be playing up front ahead of Joe Pedro, so he could be a good player for a really easy or a cheap price. So I would recommend him. He's one that I'm looking to bring in myself to get rid of the disappointment that is Nick Baltamada. So yeah, he's good. Chalobah's good. Sanchez in goal is good as well. I think Chelsea defense is better than the rest, but their matches going forward aren't the best either, and especially with the last few game weeks in mind, Chelsea seems like a team to avoid in general. So yeah, we'll probably avoid them for the time being. When it comes to Crystal Palace, a pretty interesting team to think about in general. Like, they have been really good this season. Can't find the words now. They have just been really good this season, but they are also clearly struggling with fitness and just being tired from playing so many games and having such a small squad in general. They don't have much depth. You can see Mateta now just being completely exhausted. He gets subbed off right after 16-minute mark every single game now. He's just super tired. They also lost Ismail Assar to injury, and then now African Cup of Nations. So they are struggling a bit with their offensive talents, but that's where the defense has stepped up. So far this season, Palace started off the season pretty strong defensively. Then they turned into this offensive beast where they scored a lot of goals and had a lot of high-scoring games. And then now lately, when they've been more tired, I think they've been more concentrating on keeping the clean sheet and getting maybe the winning goal, which has been working out well for them. They did get the lead against Man United and lost the lead there. Kind of disappointing for them to give that up again, but that was again down to the fact that they got super tired, and Man United made some changes at the half there that also helped them quite a lot there. Burnley away, not the best fixture, but they still got a result from that game. Henderson with some important saves towards the end of the game as well. And then Fulham, they also managed to scrap a win from that game, despite Fulham being a bit dangerous on a couple of occasions, despite the lack of expected goals there in general. But Palace defensively really good. Munoz missed out, of course, in game 15, but Guehi has just been scoring and assisting and getting extra points here and there this whole season. He's looking really, really good. Defensively, they have some really good assets, Palace. Offensively, Mateta is dead tired. Ismail Assar is gone with injury, so I think it's all about the Palace defense currently as it stands. You can also see that from the expected goals conceded. 2.94 is not too bad. Didn't really concede too many chances in any of these games, so they are pretty good defensively, Palace, but offensively struggling with injuries and fitness. And Nketiah could actually be a decent player. He's listed as a forward, so if you want a cheap I think it's 5.3 or 5.4 currently in price, he's gonna play. He's gonna play more up front as well, with Mateta being just struggling with fitness and stuff. So Nketiah could be a decent option. He scored a really nice goal in the Fulham game to give them the lead there. So yeah, he could be a good offensive option, but just a backup. But defensively, that's where you want to go with. Could even double up with Munoz and Guehi, but they also their matches are a bit mixed going forward. So I think if you have had Guehi since the start of the season, congratulations, you're probably doing well in FPL. But Munoz is also someone that I would keep. I have him myself, and I am looking to keep him, even though it is Man City in the next game. But he's probably going to come back from the knee injury. He's been nursing a knee injury for the last few game weeks. It was fantastic, of course, scored the goal against Burnley, which was enough to get the win there. Got 14 points, again, like he did in game week 12 against Wolves. So Munoz is also looking like a really good pick. And yeah, again, one of those fullbacks that is great attacking, great hinders to attacking, and could get some clean sheets as well. So yeah, Munoz, really good player to have. Moving on to Everton, they have also kind of been like Brighton lately, losing 4-1 at home to Newcastle. Kind of shocking, to be honest. Newcastle scoring 2 goals from centre-backs, Malik Chaw scoring 2 goals there from corners, kind of like Van de Ven in the past. We've had so many like braces from defenders this season. It's kind of remarkable. But yeah, terrible game against Newcastle at home in Game Week 13. Then they managed to eke out a win against Bournemouth in Game Week 14. And then Game Week 15 won quite convincingly against Nottingham Forest. Took the lead early and were sort of just coasting through the game. Dewsbury Hall has just been absolutely tremendous. I am quite annoyed that I had him on my bench and I didn't get him in for Munoz even because I had only 3 defenders. So I got in Anderson from Fulham, which we'll get to pretty soon. But yeah, Dewsbury Hall has been fantastic. He's playing as a number 10. He's getting DEFCON points. He's getting assists. He's getting goals. He's taking set pieces. He's 5.0 only. Like, he's super cheap. Everton have really good matches from Game Week 18. So he's just a super standout pick for Everton. Like I said, Game Week 18 is the magic point for Everton where they get really easy fixtures after having some really tough ones. And that's where you can have Dewsbury Hall if you don't have him already. Michael Keane in defense is going to be good for a while now still, with Brentford still out. And you could even go with someone like Grealish, for example, or maybe even Tierno Barry up front for them, who's looking a lot better lately as well, or looking a bit better at least. Also remains to be seen what happens with NGI leaving for African Cup of Nations. How will that affect Everton as a team, and how will that affect who takes the penalties? Like, who's going to be the penalty taker? Is it going to be Dewsbury Hall? It could be. He would be an even greater asset if that's the case. I think Dewsbury Hall is like the main guy to get pretty soon. They do have Chelsea away. They have some tougher fixtures now in the next 2 game weeks, Game Week 17 and or Game Week 16, 17, and yeah, Game Week 16 and 17, I should say. But then Game Week 18 onwards, they have really nice matches, which is where you want Dewsbury Hall and Michael Keane potentially. So yeah, Everton, really good team, really confusing team, but that game against Nottingham Forest at home was quite convincing. Getting a home, like an expected home win, or they win 3-0 is kind of, yeah, exactly what you want. And with beating Bournemouth away as well, quite impressive in Game Week 14 from Everton. So yeah, definitely a good side to keep in mind for Game Week 18 especially. Fulham, also like less predictable than what we expected them earlier in the season. They have been really like Fulham both last season, like under Marco Silva in general. I think they've just been like pretty consistently like a team that doesn't really concede too many goals, doesn't score too many goals, but they do keep conceding like 1 goal usually. They win either 1-0 or 2-1 typically. And they are quite difficult to beat at home, but this game, or these 3 game weeks, it was like a bit of a random ass week for them. Beating Spurs away from home with 0.45 XG. They scored, of course, those 2 early goals that will always affect how XG is counted, because they scored 2 goals from unlikely positions, with Vicario coming out and passing it out for them to score. So that will affect how much XG they can get. And they still got the win in the end against Spurs, despite like struggling a bit towards the end of the match. But Spurs didn't really create much either in that game. Against Man City, they were down 5-1, and then they made a game out of it. Chukwueze scoring 2 goals. Fulham just going all out attack, scoring 4 goals from 0.91 XG, which is kind of crazy. That should have been a bigger result for Man City, but Fulham still fought valiantly and could have had the goal in the end there as well, with Josh King almost scoring for Fulham there. Super crazy game. Would have never expected a 4-5 game at home for Fulham. That's why I didn't have Holland as captain that game week, because I didn't expect him to score that many goals, because Fulham are typically good at home. But yeah, that's just what happened in that game. 4-5 for Man City, or 5-4 for Man City, I should say. And then Fulham against Crystal Palace, pretty even game, but Palace just had the more they just had more quality up front, and that's what's been the major factor between those 2 teams. Palace have some really nice players that can get some goals out of nowhere, really, and Fulham are still struggling with like major super good players. But I think Harry Wilson is one of them. He has been really good lately. Had the beautiful goal against Palace as well. That was like super aesthetically pleasing for a goal. But Wilson has been really good lately. He has so much talent, and I have really not quite understood why he's not like a 90 minutes every type of game player, because he is always looking really good whenever I watch him. So Harry Wilson, definitely for 5.2 or 5.3, I think he's a really good option. He's someone to consider for sure, especially if you need to downgrade someone to get money elsewhere. He's someone that I'm also considering currently to bring into my team if I need to save some money. So yeah, he's definitely a good player. Been a lot of goals in the Fulham games. They only, like 2 of the games, they scored 2 goals in Game Week 13, 4 goals in Game Week 14, and 1 goal in Game Week 15. So offensively, they've been good. Defensively, not so much, and that is quite interesting when it comes to Fulham. But I think that might change. Who knows? They have some easier matches now. Burnley next game week. Joachim Andersen could be back on track again, but yeah, he's not been as good lately, of course, with these results. Moving on to Leeds, also an interesting team. They have looked pretty lackluster at parts of the season, and now going into some really, really tough fixtures, away to Man City, at home to Chelsea, and at home to Liverpool. You wouldn't really expect them to get much, but they got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss, and they easily could have had a draw in the end against Man City as well. But they have been also a bit lucky. You can see the expected goals conceded there, 5.97. They haven't been that good defensively. They have conceded a lot of goals, 3 goals against Man City, 3 goals against Liverpool. They did beat Chelsea quite handedly, though. That was like a deserved win, because Chelsea, rested players and just really struggled in that game. But Leeds in general, kind of tough to pick any options from them, especially with them conceding so many goals. Calvert-Lewin has scored in each of these last 3 games, which is kind of crazy. But don't be fooled. You know, or everyone knows, whenever you buy Calvert-Lewin in FPL, he stops performing, and that could easily happen. But I think Leeds sort of made a formation change against Man City, sort of came back in that game, or almost came back in that game, and they've looked a lot better since, and have been given a fighting chance in the next few games, and they have gotten some points as well with a win against Chelsea and a draw against Liverpool. So Leeds, I've always struggled this season to sort of pinpoint how easy of a fixture that is to play against them, and this just proves to me yet again that you can't really be too confident against them. But I think offensively, 3 goals for City, 3 goals for Liverpool, you could target them, of course. So yeah, Leeds, really surprising few game weeks and a couple really strong results, but still a team to monitor for players that you want playing against them, really. Liverpool, also speaking of turbulent and a bit here and there, let me first I think with Liverpool, I want to give some time to Mohamed Salah, who's been the greatest. He is the greatest fantasy Premier League player of all time. He is one of the greatest Premier League players of all time as well. That's something that I've said for a long time. Liverpool would not have won the league without him at all last season. He is just absolutely fantastic. Yes, he has been worse this season, but he's also scored 4 goals still, and had the numbers still. He always produces the numbers. He hasn't been that good, of course, in open play, but I think it's kind of crazy that he's been benched and been playing 45 minutes out of these last 3 games. Benched the whole game against West Ham. We expected that to be a rest. He didn't even start against Sunderland either, but came on at the half. Didn't really look too good, and Liverpool looked quite lackluster in that game in general. And then was on the bench for the entirety of the game against Leeds. And then after the game, he had this post-match tirade basically about being thrown under the bus and a lot of different things. And I don't really support typically, or mostly, players speaking out against their club and all that stuff. I think that should be handled internally. But I think also at the same time, Salah was only speaking facts as well. He's getting way too disrespected as a player in general. Jamie Carragher couldn't wait to have an 8-minute tirade as well himself against Salah and slating him and all that stuff. I think it's completely unfair for how much Salah has given to Liverpool, how good he's been in the Premier League. It's just a sad state of affairs to see him go out like this. But it opens up a lot of things with Liverpool. Szoboszlai is the player that I've picked as a standout option because he's sort of playing more offensively, almost in that right wing position. That's sort of been the de facto substitute for Salah with him not playing. He's on set pieces. He could even be on penalties. Salah's gone now. Isak doesn't play that many games from start either. So, but that could change also now because Gakpo is also injured now. Chiesa is also out with illness, I think, especially in the Champions League game. So it could be going towards Liverpool playing a bit of a different formation now with Isak and Ekitike potentially at the same time on the pitch. That could be happening with Salah gone and Gakpo out for several weeks. He's going to be out for several weeks, which means even more game weeks because the game weeks are coming thick and fast like they just did this past week basically. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch Liverpool. They have conceded some goals, but they haven't really conceded too many expected goals. Didn't really concede that many chances against West Ham at all. Didn't concede that many chances against Sunderland either. And then they conceded 3 goals against Leeds, of course. But they do have some decent defensive potential, at least with some really nice fixtures coming up as well. So I think Van Dijk, if I had him myself still, I would probably keep him. But if you could get, if you're looking for someone to downgrade to get money for someone else, I could see why you would downgrade Van Dijk, but I still think he could be a good option as well. But Szoboszlai is the one I want to highlight offensively. Even Frimpong, if he comes back fit and healthy, he could be the one to play at the right wing. That's what I always looked for when it came to African Cup of Nations and stuff, and who to be the guy to come in for Salah. But he's still out injured with hamstring injury, so I don't think we expect to see him. I don't know when we can expect to see him, but he could be. If he's back in time with Salah, well, Salah's gone now anyway. He has probably played his last game for Liverpool, which is going to be interesting to see what they do, both in terms of the transfer market, especially with Gakpo also out. I think they're going to go hard for Semenyo in January. But yeah, I think Szoboszlai is going to be able to take advantage of Salah being out. They're still scoring goals at least without Salah. The results haven't really been the best. 2 draws against Sunderland and Leeds, not like ideal for them. But that's what's to be expected when Salah's not playing, because he's been such a huge integral part to that team. So yeah, sad times for Salah, sad times for Liverpool, I think, as well, coming ahead now with no Salah and no Trent. I think both of those players have just been severely underrated the last few, or not the last few seasons, but like in general. I think Salah is like a top 5 Premier League player all time. I know that's a bit controversial for many people, but he's just really, really good, and it's not a good thing for him that he's sort of on the outs with Liverpool. I think even still, like the point that Salah had as well, bringing up the fact that Kane went like several games without scoring. He actually went in the 21-22 season. Kane went and scored 1 goal and had 1 assist in the same game actually. In the first 13 games of the season, he had 1 goal, 1 assist against Newcastle. That was it in those games. He played 90 minutes in pretty much every single one of them. He finished the season there with 16 goals in his last 24 matches. I could have seen the same happen with Salah, to be honest, if he was able to get the chance there. But maybe once he comes back from African recommendations, if Liverpool's fixture or results haven't been up to standard, maybe Salah gets sacked and maybe Salah gets a new chance. Maybe he apologizes and stuff. I don't know. Something could happen there. But yeah, it's an interesting thing to take note of for sure. But I think for now, Liverpool, I think Szoboszlai is like the guy to go for offensively. Maybe one of the strikers, Ekitike or Isak. I would expect at least one of them to play quite a lot. Probably both at the same time as well. Florian Wirtz, maybe if he could get his stuff together, he could be a good option. But yeah, I think Szoboszlai is the most safe option now for Liverpool offensively. Defensively, I think Van Dijk is still viable. Konate, if you want to spend a little bit less on Liverpool defender. But in general, Liverpool not really going to be the best team this season, I think, in general either. Moving on to Manchester City, a team that is going to be really good this season, going to be the biggest title favorite outside of Arsenal, and they have lived up to the standards lately, especially Phil Foden. I don't know what went into him for Game Week 13 onwards. He blanked for like 7 straight game weeks before Game Week 13, and then all of a sudden just like 15 points, 12 points, 17 points, or however it is. He's been getting points left, right, and center, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Even getting DEFCON in the game against Sunderland on top of the 2 goals, like, he's just been absolutely amazing. Haaland has not been quite as amazing. He did get a lot of points against Fulham, of course, when I didn't captain him, which is typical. I captained him both before and after, like many other people did. But Foden has been the standout player for Man City by far lately. Also defensively, Guardiola has shown up with some goals as well lately, getting clean sheets and goals from him. O'Reilly is still looking like a good pick, even though they have conceded a lot of goals from these past game weeks. But expected goals, 7.69. Like, they're just so good offensively. Haaland, Foden, Doku has looked good as well, of course. We're having both Aït-Nouri and Marmoush, who didn't really play much anyways, leaving for African Cup of Nations. So I think O'Reilly and Doku could still be good options, but I think O'Reilly, Foden, and Haaland is the way to go currently with City. That's the triple up that I went for on the wildcard, and I think that looks like the best triple up for Guardiola. Also, shout out to him. He's been really good, scoring goals, and yeah, we know how good potential he has, but in terms of bonus points in DEFCON, he's not as good, so that's why his value is not as high as it's been in previous seasons. But Foden, just looking absolutely fantastic, and I think he's going to keep it going. He's facing West Ham pretty soon, and he always scores against West Ham. I know that as a West Ham fan myself, so he's definitely someone to watch. But yeah, quite interesting games, a lot of goals. They have looked a bit susceptible defensively, City, which is always the case with them. And I think they've sort of gotten away with the fact that they've had some easy matches to get these wins over the line. It will be interesting to see what happens when they face some tougher teams pretty soon, but not even pretty soon. They have good fixtures in the next few fixtures as well, so yeah, they are just a really good team to target, and I think O'Reilly, Foden, and Haaland with outside case for Guardiola and potentially Doku is the way to go with Man City currently in FPL. Then we go on to Manchester United. They have had 7.09 XG in total. Most of that is from this past game, which I just watched against Wolverhampton. Just absolutely atrocious performance from Wolverhampton, but that is what's going to happen against these really good teams. Wolves, we'll get to them at the end of the video. They are the final team that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, Man United have looked pretty good offensively. They did only get the draw against West Ham, which was quite disappointing, but they also looked really good against Palace in the second half. First half against Palace was dreadful. Second half was really, really good. And then since then, they've looked pretty good. Well, against Wolves, they sort of had to look pretty good because they got so many chances to score in that game. It's kind of crazy how much Wolves were opening up for Man United, especially in the second half in that game. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes did blank against West Ham in game 14, but he's been fantastic. Got 2 assists against Palace from free kicks, like quite cheap assists, but that's what Fernandes does. And then against Wolverhampton, 2 goals and an assist. Amazing, huge haul for him. Of course, the game week where I brought him in, which I'm super happy about. He's typically really good for my team. And I've said this as well in the last few weeks. I've had him in my weekly wildcard draft videos because I think, especially with Mbeumo and Amad Diallo leaving, he's going to play a super attacking role. And even in this game against Wolves, where they are dominating and playing offensive football, he's always going to be good. Even if he plays in that central midfield role, he's going to be super attacking in those games and be involved amongst the goals and assists. And he's just looking like a really good option now, scoring the penalty as well, of course, against Wolves, getting some more confidence from the spot, which is always nice to see for him. So he's definitely the one to target from Man United. And Mbeumo's leaving for African combinations. I think Cunha is someone that could become good, but he's also just struggling with his touch and everything in general currently. Like, he is just not completely on form. But when he turns back on form, he could suddenly explode. He could sort of be like Foden and just like get a goal in one game week or 2 goals in one game week, and then just all of a sudden be like an essential player to have in FPL. So I think you should keep note of him as well, of course, but Bruno Fernandes is the way to go for Man United assets currently. Diogo Dalot as well, I think, could be a really good option. He was quite attacking, could have easily had a goal early on against Wolves, and with Mazraoui leaving as well, he's going to be more featured at the right back or right wing back position probably for Man United. So he's also like a decent shout from defense. With Martinez coming back, De Ligt is still out, but he's going to be back pretty soon as well. Defensively, they should be better. And offensively, they are pretty good. So I think Dalot is actually like a decent differential player to have for Man United as well. On top of Fernandes in midfield, who is not quite essential. I did write that on Twitter just now, an hour ago after that amazing game against Wolves, but he is going to be a really nice player to have and someone that a lot of people will try to target, especially if you have Mbeumo right now. Next week, I think still Mbeumo is going to be able to play that game next Monday, but that is sort of the deadline where people are meant to release their players for the African combinations teams. But they might get the ability to have him for one more game week, but I wouldn't buy him, of course. But I'm probably keeping him myself if we get confirmation that he's going to stay for another game week at home against Bournemouth. I think that could be a decent game for Man United as well. But Fernandes, amazing. Dalot, a decent differential. And Man United looking a bit better and better now and are in a decent position in the table. So hats off to them, I guess. Moving on to Newcastle, also another team that is on the up. They are looking quite good currently. They are getting Johan Wissa now back. He's not even leaving for African Cup of Nations with the Democratic Republic of Congo. He decided to stay with Newcastle instead and sort of focus on his club career because he had the move to Newcastle in the summer and hasn't really played at all this season. Came on in the game against Burnley, which is not a good sign for Voltemade, who I had for that game, hoping he would score 2.77 XG. They did deliver on that front, Newcastle. But Voltemade was not amongst the goals there. And now with Wissa coming back, he's more of a minutes risk. So he's someone that I'm looking to sell myself. Bruno Guimaraes is someone that I did think about getting in on a wildcard. He is just getting points from everywhere. Scored an Olympico against Burnley in MV15, which is directly from a corner. He just finds ways to get goals in every game. It seems like he's super attacking as well, like more attacking than what he's been in the past. I've said this for so many game weeks, but I still just don't fully trust him as a pick. I did like briefly think about him on the wildcard, but I was just like, nah, there's no way he keeps this up, right? And then he scores from a corner. Absolute madness. But yeah, 4-1 win against Everton. Malik Charles scoring goals there and being looked at as a good FPL option, of course. Myself included, I almost had him on my wildcard in game week 15. But then they conceded twice against Spurs, despite not conceding too many expected goals in that game, and then conceding that super late goal against Burnley as well from the penalty. Not ideal, but I think they're looking a lot better. Also, with not only is Wissa coming back, Lewis Hall is back and has played the last few game weeks, getting some big chances created, looking quite offensive and attacking minded. Livramento on the other side, like the fullbacks for Newcastle are amazing and they've been missing for the season. And now with those guys back, and playing Burn in central defense instead rather than playing out as a fullback, I think they're going to be so much better now, Newcastle. So they are definitely a team to watch. I think they are a really good team. It's just who do you pick out of their offensive players? I don't really know. And defensively as well, you could go with Lewis Hall, you could go with Livramento, you could go with Malik Chow, but there's no like super standout option defensively either. So it might just be Bruno Guimaraes. He's my standout option from them because he just kind of finds a way to get points. He's been doing it the whole season. It's probably going to continue a little bit, but I would be surprised to see him keep up this level of play or this level of FPL points getting, at least, Bruno Guimaraes. But he's someone to consider for sure. Voltemade Wissa, that's going to be sort of the issue we had or thought about at the start of the season before we knew that Wissa was going to be out for a while. Who's going to start? Who's going to play? Are they going to play more than 60, 70 minutes each? at any point. Who knows? It depends how they set up, but I don't think it's going to look that good for those strikers. You could go with Gordon. He's the penalty taker. He's been getting some penalties lately as well, to the frustration of some Wolverhampton owners. So he could be a good option. Was a really nice guy to have when Newcastle are playing really well. I think Lewis, Hall, Gordon, and Isak was typically like the triple up for Newcastle. And now Isak is of course gone, and you don't have that like number one striker anymore with Wolverhampton and Vissa switching up who's going to start up front there probably. But yeah, they have some good options, Newcastle, both in attack and in defense, but there's no like super standout options from any one of them. But definitely Gordon, I think, could be the one in the future, but Bruno Guimaraes has been the one the past few game weeks. That's the one that's been the standout option for now, at least. Nottingham Forest, also a bit of a disappointing team after they beat Liverpool 3-0 at home, which I think was in game week 12. They have struggled again, lost 2-0 against Brighton, barely beat Wolverhampton 1-0, had to get a really late Igor Jesus goal. He's the one that I've highlighted because he scored in that game, but then they also lost against Everton 3-0 in game week 15. So Sean Dyche, maybe it was like a new manager bounce sort of effect after having Ange Postecoglou and just having no semblance of a team under him. But yeah, maybe Sean Dyche is back down on earth now. Maybe, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Nottingham Forest. They have like a really good team for Sean Dyche's system, but lately they've been struggling again. So maybe it is a team to target, because expected goals 2.17, expected goals conceded 4.03. Not ideal, like not even the worst fixtures here. Wolves and then Everton haven't been good lately either. Everton, or been at least up and down, like I mentioned previously in this video. So yeah, quite disappointing week for Nottingham Forest and their players here in general. But Igor Jesus is the one that I've mentioned. He's a pretty cheap striker who's going to be able to get some goals, but Nottingham Forest's fixtures aren't really that good either. So I would most likely just avoid him for now and see what happens with them defensively, especially going forward. Are they going to come back to like the Sean Dyche defensive-minded, really good team, or are they going to be the team that lost 3-0 against Everton now in game 15? It'll be interesting to see for sure. Moving on to Sunderland, which is the next team. They are going to be hit quite hard by the African Cup of Nations. Sadiq is leaving for African Cup of Nations, and a couple other players are also leaving, including Reinildo, I think, for Sunderland. So I think they're going to struggle a little bit more. I think also like we're back in the Premier League sort of hype is going to die down a little bit. They are probably going to keep their place in the league this season because they have collected a lot of points so far already. But I do think that is a team to potentially target going forward. Man City was able to get 3 goals against them, 2.42 XG compared to 0.71 from Sunderland. Liverpool were not able to get that many goals against Sunderland, though, which is interesting to see. But yeah, Bournemouth also scoring twice against Sunderland. They have been showing some cracks defensively. 5.57 expected goals conceded, not ideal either. So that is a team that you could target. And I don't really think there's too many good offensive options either for Sunderland. I would stay away from them. So I think it's still Alderweireld for me, like a cheap player to have in case they have an easy match at home. But other than that, I probably wouldn't go for Sunderland players in general. So yeah, let's just move on from them as well. Spurs also been super up and down. Lost 2-1 against Fulham at home. Really disappointing. The fans booed every touch of Vicario after that really silly mistake. But also, like, I don't like booing your own players. But like, even in the case of Vicario, like, I don't think it was right to do that. But Vicario just like making such a massive mistake, jogging back towards the goal and conceding the goal, and then he was upset with the rest of the team rather than being upset with himself. Like, I don't know, it doesn't jive with me. But yeah, really disappointing loss for Spurs against Fulham at home. Then they drew against Newcastle 2-2 in game 14, which is quite surprising considering Newcastle have looked good lately. And then they beat Brentford very easily in game 15 as well, 2-0 there. So yeah, Spurs, quite hard to make out what they're going to be this season. They've been a bit up and down, had some really nice results, had some really bad results. But I think defensively, they've been like more defensively minded this season. Romero scored twice as well against Newcastle, a bicycle kick out of all things, kind of crazy. So I think he's a good option. He was the one that I highlighted before the season as a standout option for Spurs, and I think he's still the one to go for. Offensively, don't really trust too many players from them. Maybe Kudus, of course. He scored a really nice goal against Fulham. Wasn't enough in the end to get the result there. Also had an assist against Newcastle and had a goal disallowed, I think, against Brentford. So he's been going sort of back to pre or early season form now, Kudus. But of course, if you watch this channel, you know how much I hate on him because he played for West Ham last season. It was dreadful, and then he left for the rival club in Spurs. But he's definitely someone that I would go, like, if I would go for a Spurs attacker, it would be him once they get those better fixtures in around giving 19-20, that area. But Spurs for now, I think like Romero is like a decent option, but we also can't really trust Spurs currently. So yeah, I would probably stay away from them for now at least, and just watch what happens in the next few games and see if Thomas Frank can make anything good out of them, basically. Moving on to the final two teams that we're going to talk about, West Ham and Wolverhampton. Let's start with West Ham with some, I don't know, it's hard to say if it's encouraging, the development in the last few game weeks, I guess. The Liverpool game was not encouraging at all. Like 0.29 expected goals, didn't really put any amount of pressure on Liverpool at all. I don't really think it's suited. I don't know. Nuno Espirito Santo has just sort of been more focused on having a good defense, and that has sort of worked out a little bit, at least, conceding only once against Man United and Brighton, but still 4.91 expected goals conceded. I mean, I guess, like, looking into context, 4.91 expected goals conceded is not good, but considering they played Liverpool, Man United, and Brighton, two of them away from home, those are three really, really good teams. So it is actually pretty good defensively. I think they are looking a bit more cohesive defensively now with Nuno Espirito Santo. That's what he's known for, having like a really good defensive side. And offensively, Jared Bowen can make things work even with very few chances. That's what he did against Brighton, and that's why I think he's going to be a good option as well from game week, game week 18 or something like that. For him, game week 17 maybe, game week 18 for West Ham, where they get some really good matches. He could be a good option offensively. Defensively, I still wouldn't trust him, of course. They do concede every game. They have conceded every game the last few game weeks. But they have shown some signs of improvement, at least for anyone that had Juve and got him off the bench or played him from the start against Brighton. He was also subbed off before the goals were conceded in that game, conceded really late, as I explained in the Brighton section of this video, basically. But Bowen, someone that has definitely caught my eye with the good fixtures that they have coming up pretty soon. They're going to have pretty good fixtures for a while. I say they, even though I'm a West Ham fan, I usually say we, but trying to be objective here. But I can't really be objective with Bowen because he's just such a good player. He's the new Salah now. With Salah out, Bowen is the next best thing. He's sort of the same type of player. I really hope Liverpool don't go for him. But he is, just a really good player, and has been a tremendous FPL asset in general as well. So he's someone to make note of, I think, for the next good upcoming fixtures for West Ham pretty soon. When it comes to Wolverhampton, that's the only team where I've had standout FPL option, none. Like, I just can't select anyone from Wolves. Like, they are just really bad. They scored one goal in the last 6 or 7 games, or 7 or 8 games. Sorry about that. And that was the goal now against Man United, which was also kind of like haphazardly came along right before the half there. But defensively, they looked awful against Man United. They've lost 4 straight now with Rob Edwards, the new manager. Their squad is just not good enough. They had Aiden Nouri and Cunha, who really held everything together last season. They've also been a bit more scrambled this season. Agbadou has taken a step down. He was really good last season after he came in. Now he struggled again, and Wolves are just like a lost cause this season. 1.78 XG going forward and 5.78 expected goals conceded. Like, it's pretty awful. Like, part of that is the Man United game. They didn't actually concede that many chances against either Aston Villa or Nottingham Forest, but those two teams are also not quite as dynamic going forward as Man United are actually. Wolves, just definitely a team to target. Arsenal playing Wolves next game week. They have a lot to make up for with the loss against Aston Villa. So I think the likes of Saka, Rice, even Gyökeres is someone that I have considered, considering he came on at the half last game for Arsenal. He could get a lot of goals as well against Wolverhampton. He's definitely going to be on my free hit team. But targeting Wolves with both defenders and attacking players is the way to go. Like, that could be, especially with the new 5 free transfers you get from African combinations, just targeting Wolves every single game week could be the play going forward. Just use your transfers to just target Wolves, because they looked so bad against Man United, and I can't really say that any player is worth having for Wolverhampton currently, and they're probably going to go down with a really, really low score this season. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up all 20 teams. Try to be a bit quick with it, because I'm also, again, as I usually am lately, going to bed because I'm going early to work tomorrow. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video right there, but hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you got some nice information, or at least I kept you entertained for some reason. Maybe you like to hear me speak. Maybe you like to watch me with my short new hair and no beard. Again, comment down below what you think. Do you prefer me with long beard and hair, or long hair and beard, or short hair and no beard? I don't know, or a mixture of either one of those guys. Anyways, I'm rambling now, so let's end the video. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.